Dave, yeah, Peter Christophersen from Kakadu Native Plants in
Yeah,
Jabiru.
thanks, Peter.
Yeah, look, I've been practicing wet season fire for over 30 years, and basically a lot of our knowledge is based around usage of wildlife and usage of native seed. And so our job really is to harvest a lot of the native seed in Kakadu to put out in the local mine site here for re-veg. And so a lot of our knowledge is traditional knowledge passed on from our families, and we've been able to use that in an industrial type setting to really modify country for us, to enable us to collect good quality seed when we need it, and really give country a break. And so we've got areas around our outstation that haven't been burnt for over 20 years, and we've got areas that have been burnt, probably not for 10 years. We get areas that we've burnt year in, year out, a very fine scale. And when we first moved to the outstation about 20 odd years ago or more, not 25 years ago, it was all full of speargrass and quite prone to fire. And so the first thing to do was to, put in wet season burning and get rid of that speargrass. And we've done that. But just looking back at Kim and what Kim's, like what everybody's saying is quite real. And we've gone through that and we've seen the changes of how you can really modify country to withstand fire and really modify country to be highly productive for animals and, of course, highly productive for ourselves. And wet season fire is the game changer, but you cannot save big areas for wet season burning. You can't do it. And really, like we've managed, you might get country that may not burn for about 3 years, and that's probably the optimum. And putting subtle fires through in the dry season in a cool climate is the only time that you can burn it without destroying it. And so, after 3 years, a lot of your perennials, a lot of those acacias are up above the metre tall, and you can put those cool, night fires through. And as I think the guy from Nitmaluk was saying, is that you can ramp things up and ramp things down. And by back burning with approaching storms, by forward burning with approaching storms, I can burn over water. By back burning with approaching storms, I can settle the burn down but get a more thorough burn and a more patchy burn. And by allowing that storm to come through, we reduce the height of that, or the area burnt and the intensity of that fire. So there's lots and lots of tweaks that you can use. And it's not only looking into the dead speargrass and looking for that new growth. I mean, 200 mils of rain is probably about right. And we like to get it at 4 or 5 leaf height. And but it's also the moisture content in the ground. If the ground's too dry and the ambient temperature is too hot, when you do that burning, you destroy a lot of your plum trees and the fruit that's on them. And so it's really important to think about not only grasses, but the fruiting plants that are available as well, and the animals that use those. So, there's a lot of knowledge in there, and I think everyone's on the right track here. But holding country over to burn is your greatest risk. And we saw that with the park, trying to set up some endangered species plots, in which the 4 plots failed and got burnt out within a few years because they didn't listen on how to burn them and manage them properly. And they were too large. They went out on a limb and actually, the areas were too big to actually manage properly in a fine scale. And then looking at the landscape when you drive through it, what I've noticed is that even with your continual early dry season burns, often there's a lot of acacias that are missing out of the ecosystem, and particularly those acacias that produce the big witchetty grubs, and also one of the horned beetles, which is a really high nutrient value to bandicoots and other coppies and other things that hunt them, you know. And I think, Greg, if you're still with us, Milesy, if you look at the back blocks there where you are, there's some really hot fires that are going through earlier this year, and you can see some acacias that really adapt to it, like Acacia mamula, Acacia latescens, that really, they'll throw from, new growth. But a lot of the acacias that are so important to wildlife and coverage are missing out of that ecosystem. And that's what early dry season burning is doing as well, because people aren't changing the regime. It's just constant. And if you get that constant burning at the same time throughout the same system, then you start to lose a lot of species. At the same time, if you leave country for so long without fire, you lose a lot of species. And you've got to find that, you know, where you live and what you need. You have to find that right amount of burning, which is highly productive for that area. And each area is different. Each area is very, very different. I fought a fire the other day. I was airlifted up onto Mount Brockman, and I fought a fire up there which started by lightning. And, you know, everybody was talking, I should have been up here and doing some wet season burning. Well, it's way too early, but it's all sandstone country, and a lot of it was spinifex, you know, and you just can't wet season burn that country. So I know it's pretty hard in the escarpment country. There's spear grass up there, but not a lot. So every place is subtly different, and you have to change your tact.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Peter. There's some great insights from your experience, over a long time period in obviously a variety of country.